The San Antonio Spurs defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder 130 to 110. And as a Spurs fan, I have to say I'm very happy with this win, but I'm not going to let it get to my head since the Spurs had to play OKC on Christmas and the game will be in OKC. So don't want to get too cocky about this win, but I would say this was probably the best win of the season in the sense that the Spurs were able to blow them out on their own home court. And the fact that OKC has the best record and the defending champs, it's always good to get these wins against the best. You want to establish yourself during the regular season and get some confidence against this team because there's a high chance you'll be facing them in the playoffs if you're a Spurs. If everything goes right and everybody's healthy, there's a good chance you're probably going to run into them. So you want to get the experience playing them and just get the confidence and see what works and what doesn't. And it's kind of like a sparring match, I feel, all these games. But this game was very entertaining. The first three quarters, it was really close. There were a bunch of lead changes and ties, I would say, in this game. So it was very competitive. I know the score can be deceptive, 130 to 110, but the game really didn't break open for the Spurs until the fourth quarter where they went on like an amazing run. But for three quarters, it was very competitive, just going back and forth. OKC was not giving up. You could sense that their championship experience is coming in play. When the Spurs were punching them, they were punching back. And it was very entertaining. I will say, though, the fourth quarter surprised me. But there's some things I've observed from watching these last two games with the Spurs and OKC. I would say on OKC's end, Chet really turns into Chet when he plays the Spurs. He's terrible. In both games, he shot below 40% against the Spurs. This game, he was complete garbage. 7 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Just god awful. Like he has a negative 11 plus and minus. I don't know if Victor's in his head, but it does seem like it because whenever he sees Victor, it's like he just melts and he completely falls apart. Just he loses his confidence. I would say Jalen Williams is not as bad against the Spurs as Chet, but he's been pretty bad these last two games. The first game, he was really terrible. The one that they played a few weeks ago in Vegas. In that game, he shot 31%. In this game, he was a little bit better, shooting 44%, but he only had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, but he had 3 turnovers, 2 steals. Still not enough. He was a negative 11 plus minus. So the Spurs essentially have been able to take out 2 out of the 3 players in the OKC's trio, their big 3. They've been able to negate Jalen Williams and Chet. Like those 2 guys have not been great against the Spurs. So far, they've been able to take those 2 out of the equation and just force SGA to beat them. SGA, to his credit, he's been great in both games, shooting way above 50%. In this game, he had 33 points on 14 of 22 shooting from the field. So he shot, I think, let's see how much he shot. Yeah, he shot 63% this game. He had 33 points on 63% shooting. So he was phenomenal in this game. He was playing great and still it wasn't enough to get his team to win simply because the Spurs took out his 2 sidekicks in Jalen Williams and Chet. That's why they were able to survive his onslaught. Also, one observation I made about the Spurs in these last 2 games against OKC is that they're very good in making sure SGA does not get to the free throw line a lot. In the first game in Vegas, he only shot 4 free throws. In this game, he shot only 5 free throws. That's one thing I think the Spurs are really good at, that they don't give him these easy free throws. They make him earn it. Granted, he's still dominating, but I would prefer to lose to SGA with him not getting to the free throw line a bunch of times. So I think that's great. The Spurs players who's ever guarding him, whether it's Stephon Castle, Vassell, or Harper, they're good at not getting baited into fouling him when he does his up fakes, his pump fakes, all those tricky moves he does to get fouls. They're good at putting their hands back and showing it to the refs that they're not reaching in in to get those calls. So the Spurs have been very good in that regard. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue to keep this up when they play them in OKC, but that's something to keep an eye on. That's been very impressive. I would also say that they have forced OKC to have a ton of turnovers, 13, which I think is a lot for them because they're such a great team at handling the ball. So the Spurs defense has been great in the passing lanes, getting deflections. Also in this game, the Spurs took care of the ball. They had like only 8 turnovers, so that was great. Defensively, I would say it doesn't show when you look at the box scores. OKC shot 54% while the Spurs shot 56%. But defensively, I think the Spurs are great on the ball and making rotations. They got 10 steals, which was insanely good. They had 3 blocks in this game, and surprisingly, Victor had none of the blocks. So his streak was over. I think he had a streak of over like 100 games with at least 1 block, but still he made his impact on the defensive end. He intimidated the OKC players, and I believe he forced a lot of misses when they even tried taking it into the paint. So he was great defensively. Offensively, he was solid with just 12 points. Stephon Castle was great in this game. He took the challenge of going at it with SGA. Granted, SGA still had more points than him and had a better overall game, but I think Stephon was huge in this win. 24 points on 7 of 12 shooting, which is incredible when you look at who he did it against, the best team in the league. He shot 58%, got 24 points. He was great at forcing the issue and getting to the free throw line. 6 of 6 from the line. Kudos to him for making those free throws. He forced the issue against OKC, and he forced the tempo by pushing the ball up the court, getting into the paint, getting fouled quite a few times, just finishing, penetrating inside the paint. He was awesome, I would definitely say. De'Aaron Fox, he didn't have a good shooting night, but credit to him. He pushed the tempo of this game. He only shot 3 of 9, but he had 9 assists and definitely plus 18. So he had a huge effect. Like he pushes the pace. Him and Castle both are great at pushing the pace. They know how to speed up the game. And I think that causes OKC a lot of problems because OKC doesn't face many teams that have elite ball handlers, and even more than one, which the Spurs have, and which allows them the luxury of always pushing it up tempo and forcing OKC's defense on their heels. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on them. So he was great at pushing the ball up the court. And Harrison Barnes, underrated game, 20 points. Especially in the first half, he was amazing. I think he must have 12 or 14 points. And a lot of them came within the paint area where he had some good post-up moves, some good up and under moves where he was able to force the issue and get some easy buckets, hit a few threes. I think he set a good example in the first half with getting the Spurs easy points. Now, the guy that was very underrated, I feel, for the Spurs off their bench was Dylan Harper. This guy only had 4 points, only took 3 shots, so made 2 of them, but he had 10 assists and 5 steals and 0 turnovers. There was some stats someone brought up that Dylan Harper was only the 6th rookie in NBA history to have 10 assists and 5 steals in a game. So he was impacting the game on both ends of the court. He made some amazing passes. I felt at times he was like Jason Kidd-esque on the courts, getting Spurs players easy buckets, setting them up for great plays. I definitely believe he's going to be a special player in the next few years. I've said it for a while. I think he's going to be a superstar. And nights like this show it because he didn't really score any points, but his impact was felt on both ends of the court. I think Keldon Johnson definitely benefited from playing with him off the bench where Keldon had 25 points. And I think half of those points could be traced to easy buckets that Harper generated for him, that he was a generator. And he was great. He was an awesome weapon off the bench. He forced turnovers and was a great playmaker. So I think that was very underrated. This game really changed when it comes to momentum in the fourth quarter. I'll just break it down a small play-by-play. But at one point in time, the game was like 89-86 with just 11 minutes left. Spurs are only up by 3. And you might ask what happened after that. So Spurs got the possession. Stephon Castle got fouled. 2 free throws. The game is 91-96. And then OKC turns it over with Caruso turning the ball away. And Luke Cornett gets an easy alley-oop courtesy of Stephon Castle setting him up. So it's 93-96. Then after that play happens, I think, Spurs forced a great defensive play in which Isaiah Joe missed a long 30-footer three-pointer. And after that happens, they get the ball. Harrison Barnes gets fouled. So then it's 95-86. After that happens, Lou Dort turns the ball over. He gets an offensive foul. And that leads to Stephon Castle setting up Victor for an easy three on the top of the key where he's open. He drills it 98-86. After that, the Spurs just never looked back. They had full control of the game. OKC could never cut it to single digits, and the Spurs just rode out that wave. It was like an avalanche after that, and they just destroyed them. It was incredible. But overall, when I look at this game, I think this game and the previous game shows that the Spurs have a lot of athleticism that causes OKC problems. They're one of the few teams that has it in spades to match up with OKC's perimeter players. They can frustrate them. And then you have Victor, who's like the ultimate eraser on the defensive end. He didn't have to have a good offensive game, but just his presence, I think it negates OKC's 2 out of 3 major guys in Jalen Williams and Chet. Those guys suddenly just melt when they see him. I don't know if it's like psychological, but you can definitely see the intimidation is there. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. And the Spurs are just so deep that I think they're one of the few teams that has the depth to match up with OKC, which causes them problems. So all in all, this was a great win. I think the game in OKC and Christmas is going to be a hard game for the Spurs to win. I think OKC should win that game. I think I would expect them to show a lot of pride in that game to send a message to the Spurs that they're not easy pushovers. So that game will be very interesting to see how OKC responds. I'm going to pay close attention to Chet and Jalen Williams. More so than SGA. I expect SGA to play great, but those two guys are the guys to keep an eye on in the next game. And if they don't play well, maybe it's a sign that the Spurs are inside of their heads. I think that's something to look for. And also, I would like to see if the Spurs can continue to keep OKC from getting the free throw line. I think it's harder once you're on their home court, when you're on the road against OKC. I think that's more difficult. So if they can limit the free throws by OKC on the road and shut down Jalen Williams and Chet again, yeah, I think then I would start to wonder if the Spurs are now in these guys' heads. So that's something I'm going to look for. I think OKC should win, like Rudy T would say, that they will show the heart of a champion this Thursday, but we'll find out. So that's all I'm going to say about this game.